No one cares more about your health than you do.
Because when people are not hormonally optimized as they age, they break down. They get disease.
Well, if that's true, then why do I need you?
It's who do you get your information from? You're not going to get good information from a garden variety doctor who writes you a script for Wegovy. It's not going to happen.
This is the part that scares the shit out of me.
The pain is what sharpens us. The contrast of quote unquote things that we label negative is what allows our soul or our spirit to grow and evolve.
People replace a relationship with God with meditation because it feels easier and cleaner.
There's two options. So option one, and this is what most people do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. We have a tremendous conversation for you today with Jay Campbell, five-time international best-selling author, men's physique champion, and co-founder of BioLongevity Labs. He is widely held as a foremost expert in hormonal optimization, therapeutic peptides, and overall human performance. If you believe, as I do, that your physical fitness is a competitive advantage, not just in the activities we do, but in business and in life, lock in. This is a no-holds-barred, in-your-face episode that is going to give you some tactical guidance, particularly for men who are aging, who are looking to maintain their performance, their strength, their mental clarity into the second half of their life. Lock in on this episode because you are going to get everything you need to dial in your physical performance. With that, I'm incredibly excited to share with you Jay Campbell. Jay, as someone who's been saying on this podcast for 5 years now that health is a competitive advantage in every aspect of our life, including business, I can't be more excited to have the conversation we're about to have today.
Thank you, my brother. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, and I can't wait to go deep down the rabbit hole with you.
Yeah, so I want to start on a very personal note. Some of the listeners of the show may have heard me talk about this in the past, but for those who haven't, I'll just hit it real quick. Last January, so I live in the North, live in Albany, New York, and used to the winters, used to the normal kind of decline that you feel when you haven't seen the sun for, 100 days and all that kind of stuff, and have developed ways of getting through that. But last January, it was like I ran into a brick wall. It was like, I'm 43 years old at the time, and it's like, it was as if there was nothing there. There was nothing to pull from. You know what I mean? It's like normally, you have a good day, you have a bad day, whatever. But like I had zero and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I heard, I think, Atia or Human on one of the podcasts talking about testosterone and different markers. So I got tested and my testosterone was a 70, which put me in the 7th percentile, according to that company or whatever, of all men. And I got on a oral kind of, I have the name. I took a picture of it so I could share it with you here. The name of it is enclomiphene.
Enclomiphene.
Yeah. Enclomiphene. Yep.
Yeah.
So just under the tongue oral, I wasn't taking shots or whatever. And that helped a lot. And then my doctor also put me on Smorelin as well. And the combination of those two things brought my numbers way back. Depending on, I've gotten tested a couple times. I'm usually between like 750 and 900 in terms of testosterone now, and feel, just different world in terms of how I feel in my energy, but also brain activity, my ability to focus, like all these things came back in waves. And I have been trying to get as many people as I can, like yourself, who this is what they do. This is their life's work, is helping people optimize their health, to talk about these topics. Because as you said, and I would love for you to share this stat again, most people just go through life and feel like this is the way I'm supposed to feel. Like they just don't understand what is possible if they dig a little deeper.
Yeah, what you experience is actually commonality now in the West. I tell people all the time that 80%, and that's a strong statement, but I can correlate it, and people can fact check me just by my business model, by what I do, who I interact with in the world. 80% of society that is in the West, that is an adult over the age of 35, has a hormonal deficiency. It's not just men, it's men and women. The biggest problem, Brian, is that we don't have a lot of physicians that understand how to handle the situation. The average doctor, general practitioner, PPO, HMO, insurance doctor, has no understanding of therapeutic hormones or the endocrine system from medical school. And again, this is all purposeful. We could go down the serious rabbit hole and talk about why they don't understand what about anything about hormone optimization if we really want to. But to continue on this path is, you know, once somebody gets to 35 or 40 in the West today, they're dealing with a massive onslaught of phytoestrogens, endocrine disrupting chemicals, plastics, neurotoxins, phthalate, BPA, atrazine, glyphosate, you name it. I could talk for an hour about all of the things that are attacking us biologically. And so once that happens, regardless of whether you were a former pro athlete or a flaming dumpster fire of obesity and insulin resistance, you have most likely a hormonal deficiency. And when you go to the doctor, if you go to the doctor, because a lot of people, like you said, just sit and suffer. Most people's default state in America today, because of this poisoned environment that we live in, is suffering, right? They don't even know how to not suffer. But if they're lucky enough to go to a doctor, or their wife pushes them to go to a doctor, or they're like you, they figure something's going on, and they go to a doctor, it's unlikely the doctor can even diagnose the problem because they don't understand anything about hormones. In fact, what doctors normally do is they write you a script for an SSRI, which is obviously an antidepressant, because your mood is altered, you're depressed, you have low energy, and then they also will address the erectile issue because usually you have sexual dysfunction, right? So you can't get a good erection, so they'll give you a blue or pink pill, Viagra, Levitra, Cialis, whatever. There's other ones now, and so you're never addressing the fundamental root cause, which is a hormonal deficiency. And what ends up happening is when you're taking an SSRI, even and also what are called PP5 inhibitors, which are Levitra, Cialis, or Cialis and Viagra, over time, your hormonal deficiency becomes worse because SSRIs change brain programming and actually lower your hormones even worse and make it worse. And then the sexual dysfunction even gets worse because if you're taking a higher dosage of all those inhibitor drugs, you eventually develop like a desensitization. So you don't get the erection quality or strength. They actually kind of stop working as you titrate the dosage up higher. So we are just like in this morass, in this like dysfunctional society where people are not being treated in the right way. And, I could go down the path. Obviously, I've written many books on it, but like if you treat someone's hormones initially versus giving them those other big pharma drugs, and again, you do it right, which is also a big question, you will actually eliminate most of the issues that are being faced in society today from a disease state. And I mean, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, type 3 diabetes, which is really neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer's, dementia, autoimmune disease. All of these things stem from a hormonal dysregulation. The hormonal dysregulation causes inflammation and insulin resistance, and then obviously obesity and metabolic disease and disorder. And so you have this, again, society of people who are sick, fat, and depressed, and they're not getting the hormonal treatment necessary to make them feel better, which you did. And again, you're lucky. You're one of the lucky few because most guys don't. Most guys, if they're lucky enough to have a wife to say you're not right, what's going on, they push them down like to go to the GNC and they buy like the over-the-counter bullshit testosterone boosters that don't do anything.
Yeah.
So thankfully you did see a doctor and they did give you enclomiphene, which is a FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, a luteinizing hormone analog, which will help increase certain things to increase your endogenous, which is your natural testosterone production. You also took a growth hormone agonist peptide like sermorelin, which helped. But again, most people, Ryan, don't get this kind of help, and it just becomes worse and worse and worse. And again, walk around in America today, go to an airport, go to a stadium, go to an event with a lot of people, and all you see is default suffering, fat, inflamed, sick, and depressed. That is the average default person in America today.
Jay, here's the scary part. Everything I take today,
Yep.
I have no, I've had to piece together your comments on my general practitioner. So my general practitioner is a perfectly fine human being, but
For lack of a better term.
essentially,
Right.
I don't even know why I go to her. You know what I mean? Like, and I mean that with all due respect to her,
Yeah.
but like, you know, if I go, I get my own blood work.
Right.
You know, so I pay for so I've essentially had to, and again, this is the scary part, is like I have had to piece these things together
Yep.
by listening to people like yourself,
Yep.
reading tons of articles,
Yep.
researching companies online,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like this is only because I am this psychotic, neurodivergent, once I
Right.
have a bone, I can't let it go type of
Yeah.
human.
Yep.
That's the only reason I've gone down this path. Like the amount of work, and I don't know shit, and
Right.
I'm fully aware of that. With the amount of work I've done to still feel like I don't know, that's the scary part. And it's why, to your point, and you know, I talk about this with some of my friends, like, you know, so my kids play baseball.
Yep.
Okay. And I coach and I love it and whatever. It's all good. I look around and my kids and I are very into being fit, you know, whatever. And freaking everybody's got a dad bod. Everybody.
Mm.
My son said to me the other day, and he wasn't being a jerk, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's just aware and noticing.
Sure. Sure.
And he goes, Dad, you're the only one here without a dad bod.
I know.
Out of all the parents, all the fans, all the coaches, all the parents, the entire place, I was the only one that didn't have a gut sticking out of the front of my shirt. And that's and I don't mean that to be so negative for those of you who are listening who may have that going on, but my point in having individuals like yourself in these conversations is that shouldn't be acceptable. Like not just because of the look. I don't mean it that way. It's not a judgmental on the look. It's the reason you wake up feeling hungover, even though you didn't have a drink the night before, is because of what you're seeing in your midsection.
Dude, 100%. I mean, look, like I told you, I'm in Mexico right now. I just did a big retreat in Tulum with a bunch of other biohacker influencers. And, you know, the people that we attracted were not that type of person. But like, I just go down to the pool in my hotel here in Playa del Carmen. And like, when I take my shirt off and, you know, I'm super fit dude, obviously, but like people look at me like I'm an alien. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, as you know, because you're just 10 years younger than me, I'm 54. It used to be the other way around, right? Like people would look at people like us and be like, damn, man, impressive, great job. How do you do? You know, what do you do? Do you train? You know, how do you eat? Blah, blah, blah. They would ask you questions, general questions about like, wow, you know, and now it's the opposite, right? Because now fit people are completely the neurodivergent mutants. And so it's truly bizarre. We've really changed the world again. And again, the reason this is it's no confusion. We live in a toxic society. The food is toxic. The water is toxic. The air that we breathe is toxic. All the chemicals in our modern society are toxic. You get in your car, whether it's a Tesla or a BMW M5, whatever it is, and the petroleum distillate in your car has fumes that come out when the sun hits it through the windshield. That's sickening you, right? The blue light from your nav screen or your flat screen or the Tesla is irradiating your optic nerve. It's generating all sorts of bad stuff for your biological system. So the modernization of today cannot be avoided. You know, we can't go into the forest and live like a monk 1,000 years ago. Those days are over. I mean, you can, right? You want to move to the Aboriginal outback of Australia, which I was just in Australia like 3 weeks ago and, you know, saw some crazy stuff. But I mean, it's not relative to most people in modern day society. So the only thing you can do, Ryan, is do what you do. And truthfully, I'll give you credit because you're actually not dumb. I mean, you actually know more than 90% of doctors already. And look, we're not going to disparage doctors. Doctors go to medical school, they get brainwashed, they have to regurgitate all this nonsense. I mean, dude, I mean, I don't want to go rabbit hole, but like think about with AI and how AI is infecting the world now. I mean, imagine where education is going because, bro, people don't even think. We could talk about that in a second. But people under the age of 30 now, Ryan, literally don't even think. They use AI to respond. You probably get emails right now back from people who are responding with AI. It's all so insane. But back to the doctor conversation, your doctor, you shouldn't go to. I say this all the time. Unless you're bleeding out, gut shot, you've been in a serious accident, you have shrapnel that is stuck out of your body. Doctors in the allopathic, quote unquote, sick care, you know, illness medicine world should not be gone to because if you went to your doctor right now and say, hey, doc, I want to live to 150, tell me what to do. They would literally look at you dumbfounded. They'd be like, what are you talking about? Are you sick? You know, open up your tongue and stay out. You know what I'm saying? So like, we now will live in a world where you have two choices. You can literally be about health optimization, which is obviously the point of this podcast, which is what you did when you optimized your testosterone and went down this rabbit hole. Or you can just be that, quote unquote boomer who is literally says, oh, well, my co-payment is this, and this is what I can afford, and this is what my doctor does for me. And those people do nothing for you other than write you scripts
Mhm.
and tell you you have sickness, tell you have a disease or a diagnosis. And then these people again internalize their diagnosis. So we're in a place in time now, and I call it a golden age. But you have to be the individual arbiter of what your truth is. And if your truth is like, dude, I'd get my own labs done. I have a doctor that's optimizing my hormones. Maybe it's a functional medicine doctor, maybe it's Jay Campbell or somebody else on the internet, but I get my own labs, which I can do obviously by myself, like buying
Mhm.
something on Amazon. I listen to Jay Campbell's podcast, or I listen to so and so, Andrew Huberman, Ben Greenfield, Mark Sisson. And I know how to actually read my own labs because it's simple, right? Like you get your labs back and you're like, oh fuck, what's this? But as soon as you watch one video and somebody says, this is what you need to look for, these are the numbers, it's simple, right?
Yeah.
So we're in a place because of technology, because of the internet, because of information being ubiquitous that we can do it all ourselves, bro. So I would say to you about your doctor, you don't need it. You don't need one.
I'm gonna give you a crazy. I'm gonna tell you a crazy story. I mean, probably not crazy to you, but maybe some of the people can relate at home and maybe open their eyes to what you just said, right? So something we talk about in other aspects of our life is like no one cares more about your health than you do, right? Your doctor, as much as they don't want you to be sick, they don't care that you're healthy as much as you care about being healthy. Yet we'll completely outsource everything. Okay, so with that thought in mind, right? I had this doctor for when essentially since I got done with college, I got referred to her. She was awesome, and she actually was more of an old school. She would work with. What are you trying to do? Where are you
Right.
trying to go? How do you? Okay. And when I would go in for a physical, she would touch every part of my body,
Yep.
every part. Right? It would be a full
Yep.
inspection.
Yep.
Okay. So she retired 3 years ago, and I got the doctor that I have today was part of her practice. Whatever. I go in the first time, this is 3 years ago, I go in, I sit down, uh, pee in the cup, take the blood pressure, sitting there, I'm ready for my body scan, right? I'm ready for her to poke and prod and pull and
No
push.
time. No time.
Comes in, sits down, says, "Here's your how do you feel?" I said, "I feel fine." She hands me a slip to go get blood work, and she says, "Great, well, I'll call you if there's anything wrong."
Exactly. That's how it is.
That was the whole thing.
That's
And
how
I said and I like I'm like, "Well, aren't you gonna do an exam?" She goes, "Oh, no, everything just comes out in your blood work." And I was like, "Well, if that's true, then why why do I need you? Because I can get prescriptions online from doctors. I can get my blood work online. I can get more detailed panels." She wasn't ordering my test. I'm a guy.
she doesn't even know how to read your testosterone. Why would
Yeah.
she order it?
Yeah. So one of the things that you said before the show as well that I would love to like just get a little tactical is like maybe break down those testosterone like what are the
Sure.
difference between the different testosterone numbers that we see and what should we care about when we're looking at these charts
Yeah,
ourselves?
it's a good question. And let's even go back and go deeper meta. So there's a bunch of companies online right now, private MD labs, discounted labs, direct labs. There's other ones I'm not talking about that any man or woman can go directly to and with no knowledge whatsoever, but a checking card or a credit card, or a wire, transfer or a cash app can order a comprehensive lab for their age and their sex, right? And those comprehensive panels are going to measure everything inflammatory markers, endocrine function, which is your testosterone, your estrogen, your progesterone, which estrogen and progesterone are really important in women, a little bit almost equal to testosterone. And then estrogen and testosterone in men are a little bit more important than progesterone is in women. But thyroid markers, obviously your metabolics, your CBC, like your liver panel, your kidney panel, all of these things are so simple that you can measure, right? So at that point, you whatever one you pick, there's also coupons. I mean, I have a deal with private MD labs, you can get 15% off. And I even also set it up so that if you're broke as fuck, you can do a basic evaluation. If you have money, you can get an intermediate. And if you're like super down the rabbit hole and you're like, I want to know everything about myself and I want to know my DNA and I want to know my, food insensitivities, you can spend $1,500 and you can understand 90 different biomarkers, right? So it's up to you where you want to go and how deep you want to go. But bro, you just said it. And I'll get to free testosterone and total testosterone in a second. But once you understand how to read these biomarkers, now there's a big component of, okay, understanding is great. Are you also taking care of yourself, which we can get to, which is, are you exercising daily? Are you doing a combination of obviously resistance training, which is weightlifting or some sort of bone bearing training versus cardiovascular training? And then are you what I call living insulin controlled, which is essentially regulating your carbohydrate consumption around your activity level? There's too many people out there that are afraid of carbohydrates and they go down the whole carnivore, keto, if it fits your macros, Atkins, zone. When really it's all about metabolic flexibility. So you got to eat everything, carbs, protein, and fat, regularly over your course of your life, or you retard different biological systems when you don't do that. So all these people that focus on carnivore and keto are really that are going down rabbit holes they don't want to do. Because when you don't eat carbs for a long time, your insulin metabolism becomes retarded. Literally. I mean, it stops working functionally and you end up having all these problems. But without rabbit holing, insulin controlled, lifting weights, doing cardiovascular, and understanding your biomarkers, and you don't need to go to the doctor. Again, unless you have an emergency, unless you've been impaled, shot, in a car accident and somebody needs to surgically sew you up or take shrapnel or gun bullets or whatever it is out of your body, you truly don't need to go. And people have to start understanding that you already said it. No one is coming to save you. You are the personal and proactive scientist of your own health, but only if you choose to be. And again, by getting these lab tests and learning how to evaluate them yourself, which will not take a lot of effort, you can do it. Now, the difference between, to your original question, free testosterone and total testosterone, and again, bro, I'm not joking when I tell you this, 98% of physicians do not understand this. They do not learn this. Why would Big Pharma want them to understand hormones when not understanding hormones is how they make money, right? Because when people are not hormonally optimized as they age, they break down. They get disease, inflammation, all the various diseases of aging. You get heart disease, diabetes, glaucoma, gout, all this shit that people get from being inflamed and fat and not exercising and not living insulin controlled is what leads to it. So they don't want people hormonally optimized because if you're hormonally optimized, you're not going to get sick. But free testosterone and total testosterone, this is a huge thing for the dudes on this podcast and in your audience to understand the differentiation. Total testosterone is the number that most people see, and it's the measure of what is called bound testosterone in the bloodstream. Bound testosterone in the bloodstream is completely useless because it's not biologically active. So free testosterone is what we call biologically active testosterone or unbound. That's the number that you want to concern yourself with because that's what's usable in your body, right? So there's a lot of people out there that will have like a middle to high normal. And again, I don't know what normal means, but that's what they say in the lab reading community, total level and low free. And their doctor will be like, oh, you're fine because your total is above the range. But you're actually the opposite of that because with low circulating free numbers or testosterone numbers, you have no usable testosterone in your body. So essentially, you're walking around damaged goods, depressed, horrible mood, low energy, no erectile strength, poor sleep. Another thing, dude, so many guys think that, and because they always say this to me, right? They think that having low testosterone means they can't get it up or have sex with their woman. And that's the total opposite, right? Like a lot of guys with super low testosterone can get great erections and can still have regular sex and ejaculate and reach climax. And it has absolutely nothing to do with low testosterone. So if you're a man and you're watching this show right now and you have brain fog, it's like 99.9% that you have low testosterone. If you have belly fat, and brain fog and, an inability to sleep well at night, it's 99.9% that you have low testosterone because, bro, you said it earlier, belly fat creates insulin resistance and cytokines in the stomach, and the stomach hangs right over the penis, right? So where the penis is and all of that, endocrine functional glands, the gonads, the testes, all of that stuff down there. If you've got this massive insulin resistant visceral fat hanging above your dick, why would you think your dick would work? Right. So like these guys don't understand because I see guys all the time in the middle ages and they're like fit everywhere else, but they have a slight belly and it's like hanging. And I'm like, and they can't get an erection. I'm like, dude, you got to get rid of the belly. Right. So it's like the bottom line is understand what the difference is between free and total. And if you have free testosterone, again, just to give you a garden variety range, like less than 15, you have low testosterone. And getting on therapeutic testosterone, we can go down that path and talk about the various delivery systems, clomiphene, uh, HCG. I mean, I like therapeutic testosterone and clomiphene or therapeutic testosterone and HCG because nothing will restore dopamine signaling in the brain better than therapeutic testosterone. And clomiphene in isolation, like you did, will increase numbers and increase FSH and increase LH, which will make you fertile. But a lot of guys, you're one of the lucky few. A lot of guys don't feel the brain improvement. They don't feel the like, oh, the light came on improvement. So
Yeah.
usually therapeutic testosterone, and there's a lot of different delivery systems we can talk about, combined with what you were doing or combined with HCG or HMG, again, improving FSH and LH so you remain fertile is usually the best path to go. But yeah, dude, I mean, it's like, again, look around. I mean, almost every guy that you see with a dad bod, that is the result of low testosterone. They do not have masculine fire. It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny, I have people because again, going back to the coaching part,
Sure.
um, I'm all over the place. I love it. You know what I mean? It's just I feel like I get to be a kid again and run around. My son's 11, so it's just tons of fun. And we have all and I'll have people come up to me and they'll be like, "Hey, how do you have the energy for this?" And I'm like, "This is like, what are you talking about? This is great." You know what I mean? I love this shit.
Right.
And it's just a different world. And I want to give you an example of, and just again, for everybody at home, and I'm sure you've had these conversations with your doctors. Like, I have high cholesterol. I've had high cholesterol my entire life. Since I was 8 years old, I've had high cholesterol. It's just a
By the way, that's
genetic.
genetic.
Yeah,
Um,
genetic. It's just genetic high cholesterol, okay? No matter what I do, I've never been able to get it below 190, and I'm usually between 200 and 300 any given time,
Sure.
okay? So my doctor's like, if you have another high cholesterol test, we want to put you on Lipitor and all this kind of stuff, and I didn't want to do that. And I said, "Okay."
Smart.
I said, "But," I said, "I did some research, and what I found out is, one, because it's genetic, it has less of an impact on my body." I said,
Right.
"Two, if I have zero plaque, then there's no issue
Exactly.
with me having cholesterol between 2 and
100%.
300." So
100%.
so she goes, "Well, I guess I can order you a plaque test." I go, "Yeah, that's what I want you to do." So I go get the plaque test. The plaque test is 0, and she comes back and she goes, "Well, I guess you don't need the Lipitor." And I said,
So think
and it
how
was,
many people, by the way, do not
dude,
that, bro.
this is the part that scares the shit out of me, is like, she had no problem just going, "Here's Lipitor. Here you go." No, didn't even go, "Here's the side effects, here's
Exactly,
what,"
exactly.
just, "Here's Lipitor, have a nice day, go." And it's like, I don't even actually have a problem. Like, if you would just go on one level deeper, I actually don't have a problem.
Bro, that's 95% of men. And again, you and me are different than most men. Let's just be honest right now. We're 10% left of society. 10% is like us now. That's how bad it really is. And to go deeper with that doctor, and again, to not disparage doctors, because bro, I always say this, right? They're just products of a bad system. Like they got to pay their bills, they got to write their mortgages, they got to pay for their kids, college tuitions. I mean, everything that we face in our matrix of life in third density reality, they got to deal with the same shit, and they're only going to do what they can do to maximize their income. For her to say to you, take Lipitor or Atrovin or whatever, statin drug, she makes $450. Like every time they write a script, that statin company or that statin lobby reimburses them a flat chunk. That's why the best cardiologists from an income standpoint have every single patient on a cholesterol lowering medication. And I want to go deeper down the rabbit hole because I don't get a chance to talk about this a lot. But cholesterol is an absolute, and you set me up perfect. Cholesterol is a completely and totally meaningless data point. Here's why. In the absence of plaque, and we're going to go deeper on that in a second, it means nothing, right? The only thing that means something in the cholesterol evaluation, and again, we're talking about lipid particles in the body, okay? Fat globules between HDL and LDL, high density lipoprotein versus low density is triglycerides. Triglycerides are a measure of the bad fat that is emulsified in your visceral body fat store. So the more body fat, again, visceral body fat, which is the kind that sits around your organs, which is the really unhealthy fat, will lead to the higher levels of triglyceride. If you have high levels of triglyceride, that's bad and you're at a seriously high risk level. But guess what, bro? That's completely changeable. You can get on a diet, change your lifestyle, lose body fat, lose your levels of inflammation. And I've seen guys, no exaggeration, bro, with 500 triglyceride levels down to 50 in 4 months. So it's completely lifestyle dependent. You can change all this. But to your point, I've seen Greek people who have 600 levels of cholesterol naturally because it's genetic, right? They don't have any issue whatsoever because they're active, they're not fat, they're not inflamed. Now, back to the plaque, because this is also important, and a lot of people miss this, and 90% of cardiovascular doctors miss this. If you don't have any plaque and you're healthy, what is the risk, right? Even if you do have plaque, and this is what blows people away, if you are fit and you have genetic levels of plaque, then how's that going to affect you, right? Because you have to be unfit and make a sudden movement, which is again, average American or average person in the West who's obese and doesn't exercise, to have that plaque break off and block, an artery or block an arterial vein or something to give you either a blood clot, which is a deep vein thrombosis, or a heart attack. So like I always tell people, like this whole like observing plaque, observing APO or ApoB and all our lipoprotein particle sizes is just a big scam for cardiovascular doctors and of course prescribing statins to make money, because people don't really understand. You're right, dude. Like if you go to the doctor and you have a 195 or a 200 level of cholesterol, it's instantaneous. Oh, I'm going to put you on the statin.
Yeah.
And if you don't do any investigation and you're just the average Joe or Jane and you're not Ryan Hanley or Jay Campbell, you're not going to go deeper down the rabbit hole and investigate whether you need it. And you're like, okay, doc, put me on it. And then,
Yeah.
bro, like you said, it makes you worse. I've written many articles on statins. Statins are the worst drug, well, probably next to the COVID vax. It's the worst drug in the history of mankind. It literally lowers testosterone. It causes brain issues. Like it literally screws with dopamine signaling. You become more depressed, lower testosterone, fatter, more inflamed. I mean, they are horrible, horrible drugs. And dude, I don't even know what the percentage of men on statins are over the age of 50, but I bet you it's 60%.
Oh, yeah, that probably even sounds low to me. I bet it's higher than that. But crazy. I mean, the way they give them out like candy at parties, it's nuts.
Literally, dude,
Yeah.
candy.
Yeah. Um, I want to talk about GLP-1s for a minute.
For sure.
Because came out, super drug. Then the next wave of news articles we got was don't
Worst
believe
thing
the hype,
ever.
they're actually killing you. Yeah. And now the narrative has kind of from seemingly the people that are trying to actually help
Right.
has kind of come back around to,
Yep.
well, yeah, there's these benefits to potentially with weight loss, but now we're looking at things like the reduction in cancer markers, elevated brain functionality. So let's get into like, is let's say you're optimizing your health from the standpoint of not just trying to lose weight. Maybe you have a little bit of weight you want to lose, whatever, but you're not. Is a GLP-1 something I should look at to add into my mix to overall optimize my longevity and health?
Dude, I love you, bro. Nobody ever asked me questions like this. So I just did a huge presentation on GLPs for one of my speaking engagements for this seminar. And I'll just say this, like, I'm obviously very, very pro GLP. Now, with that said, you have to understand how to do them. And you said it exactly right. They came out, they were all the rage. People lost weight. And then the sheeple, let's just call them the sheeple,
Yep.
who are working with the sheeple doctors, did everything wrong. And let me define what everything wrong is. They don't eat enough protein. They don't lift weights. They take way too high of a dose. As I always say, in big pharma, versus Jay Campbell, like the mantra is start high, go higher. In the Jay Campbell world, everything, supplements, peptides, hormones, is start low, go slow. Like it's as low as possible, and then go slow and evaluate, because you are a unique biochemically individual person, and what works for you might not work for Ryan or Jay. And you have to start at the lowest titrated dose as possible and then go from there. But again, in big pharma world, they give everybody too much. Start high, go higher. And why is that, Ryan? Because that's how they make money. That's how they line their pockets. That's how the pharmaceutical companies make more money. So to your point, when you do it right, they're the greatest interventions in the history of medicine. And this isn't just my opinion. This is based on the amount of money that Mounjaro and Wegovy are making. Last year, Mounjaro made $6 billion. Wegovy is higher than that. And I don't know the actual statistic, but I know it's a bigger GLP prescribed. So in the people that do the right things, and again, I'll define it again because, people don't do the right things: eat enough protein, lift weights, microdose, literally microdose, which is usually going against the recommendation of the quack doctor that wrote you the script. And you do this right. And again, you proceed with caution. It's insane. And to your point, it's not just metabolic improvement and weight loss, it's changing and rewiring the brains. People are recovering from complete obsessive compulsive disorders and addictions: porn addictions, alcohol addictions, smoking addictions, uh, neurodivergence. I mean, bro, there are studies coming out now every day that are showing the amazing, profound nature of these drugs. But again, as I always say, and give Tim Ferriss credit, the difference between a pill and a poison is the dosage. And if you're taking too high of a dose and you're not doing any of the things right, which, as you know, is the majority of America, because they want an easy button and a holy grail, magic bullet for everything. They don't want to do the work. Then you're going to only end up with side effects. And the negative things that you see in the media about muscle loss and Wegovy ass and Wegovy chin and Wegovy face and Wegovy butt and all this stuff is real. But none of that stuff has to happen. And I've worked with thousands of people who are using GLP-1s productively. Their lives are changing. I mean, I have thousands and thousands of women who write me every single day saying, you have no idea like what a microdose of terzapatide has done for my life. It's eliminated food noise.
Yeah.
I've lost 30 pounds. I've lost 20 pounds. I've lost 60 pounds. And this was weight that I never got off after my second baby. This is weight that I could never get off after I was 28 years old. So like profound biological and physiological change, not to mention all the amazing things that's going on in the brain. But again, it's a caveat. If you don't do all the other things right when you're taking them, you're going to have issues. And so it's, who do you get your information from? You're not going to get good information from a garden variety doctor who writes you a script for Wegovy. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, because there's no follow-on. I mean, that's the other part too. There's no follow-on. So, okay, so I I'm very interested personally in this idea of microdosing GLP-1s and, like, how do you go about it? Like,
Sure.
and again, and don't give away any secret sauce to what you
No,
do, but,
no,
like,
no, I will.
yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
I'm an
yeah,
open book. I'll tell anybody.
yeah,
So, I mean, like, so it's a great question because there's two options. So, option one, and this is what most people do, is go to a doctor, get a script. If you're not fat and diabetic, you're getting absolutely anally raped because, as you know, they're charging an arm and a leg for these, like
yep,
1 month of dosage of terzapatide, which is a dual stage GLP-1 agonist, which means it suppresses appetite and increases resting metabolic rate by increasing glucogen. Can be $1,200 to $1,600 for a month, right? And in America today, if you're not having your insurance pay for that or having a copayment for that, there are very few families that can pay that, right? So that's option one. You either have a diet, and then there's obviously some people that get a diabetic doctor to write them a script for type 2 diabetes. And so they can kind of hack the system. If you have a doctor that you're friends with, there are people doing that. They also do that with Wegovy or semaglutide. That's option one. So it either comes down to you're hacking the system and you're getting a script from your doctor who gets you a compounded medication or format of that. Or option two, which is where I kind of come in, and my company, BioLongevity Labs, comes in, is you buy it from a research company. And if you buy it from a research company, you literally can buy these things for 1/10. And sometimes when there's discounts and sales, they're running 1/20th of the price.
yeah,
So here's the difference though. If you're buying it from your doctor and it's coming in a compounded format, there's nothing you have to do except inject it, right? Having somebody, either yourself or your mom or your wife or your husband or whatever, or a nurse practitioner that's friends with you or something like that. They inject it. If you're doing it microdose, you got to do it every other day. You're using a small insulin needle or even a medical grade pen. It's no big deal. If you're coming from the research side, you got to understand how to reconstitute a peptide, which is not hard, but some people make a big deal out of it because they're like, oh my God, I got to math. You know what I mean? Like I got to do math. I got to understand what a milligram versus a microgram is. I got to understand an insulin needle. I got to understand reconstitution, blah, blah, blah. So they make it a lot harder than it is. But if you do learn that and you take the time, and obviously people like me have courses, I have massive amounts of free information, free videos, all sorts of stuff. My book is online. There's a lot of stuff you can learn, bro, in one day. It's not hard. And thankfully, and I say this not from a financial or personal benefit, but I say thankfully because people are becoming more empowered. More and more people every day are like, fuck big pharma, fuck my doctor, fuck this outrageous shit, fees and stuff. I'm going to buy this myself and I'm going to research on myself. I'm going to be my own guinea pig and hamster. And they're learning to do it on themselves. And so my industry right now and my vertical is just exploding. Now, we need to mention there is a triple stage agonist GLP, which is called retatrutide, which in the research community is like the biggest seller in the world right now. My company sells that. Bro, that is the most profound drug in the history of mankind. There's nothing like this drug. It's a triple stage agonist, which means it suppresses appetite, increases resting metabolic rate, and also activates brown fat, which means for most of you guys that are familiar with cold plunges and doing that stuff, taking cold showers, that turns on brown fat every single day. So when you're taking retatrutide in a tiny, tiny microdose, and I'll actually show you my medical grade pen here in a second, dude, if you take this every other day of your life, you'll be shredded. You'll not only will you be shredded, you will have incredible focus. You will have no food noise. You will be a different human being. If you have vices like gambling, smoking weed, vaping, drinking too much alcohol, like women drink too much wine socially at night, it will stop you from doing all of that stuff. I mean, it literally is a godsend. Every single day I get messages from people all across the world who said, dude, I like you and you're a great marketer and you talk about these things, but I didn't really believe about retatrutide, but I've been using it or my wife's been using it and it's a miracle. Bro, my 16-year-old daughter, who is a beast gymnast, been exercising her whole life, started lifting weights with me and my wife when she was 11. She's very regimented, very disciplined. I mean, obviously she has me and my wife as parents, right? So she's got great leadership and role models, but I put her on retatrutide in the end of January, and an absolute like 1/50th of the recommended weekly dose that a sheeple would take. And dude, when we came back, we were gone a month. We were in Australia, New Zealand. I I was like, what the hell happened? I mean, her body morphed. I mean, she's already muscular and fit, but she's got like the genetics where she puts weight on in her hips, her hamstring, and her glute tie. And so she was gaining weight down there. Now, granted, I wouldn't recommend most people put their 16-year-old daughter on these things, but my daughter is very regimented. She's also in competitive cheer. So she practices every day. She knows how to eat. She knows how to like inject herself. I had to show her how to do it a couple times a week. She's doing it twice a week. It transformed her body. And dude, and that was in 2 months. And I've seen thousands of people around the world who have transformed their bodies and transformed their minds, which is to me the most important thing because it's the gateway. It's like radically making you stop making poor choices. And I'm telling you, it's the greatest drug ever. Now, for the people watching this, they're like, why have we not heard about this? It's not FDA approved. It's an Eli Lilly drug. It's already through stage 3 trials. But the whole compounding FDA approval process, as you know, Ryan, is so broken. Like we live in such a golden age now, and the research community are putting things out years in advance of the FDA approving the drugs. There's no risk. I mean, there's no side effects from this drug. Like the only thing you would get from a side effect standpoint is if you were retarded and you took too much and it slammed your metabolism so much that you had to sit on the toilet and, have liquid poop. I mean, that would be, and again, you would have to be really dumb if you did something like that. But I mean, dude, I'm telling you, there are no side effects.
And some people actually pay a lot of money to get to liquid poop because of the constipation problems they have with their terrible diet. So
I'm telling you, dude, I've never in my life, I've used pretty much everything. Obviously, I'm an OG biohacker. I've experimented on myself. I've done every drug known to man for the most part. I've never seen anything like retatrutide. It is a
Yeah.
game changer. There are already now 4-stage GLP-1s in the pipeline, and just so people know what that means, like, it would be one beyond retatrutide because retatrutide doesn't have an anti-catabolic, which means a muscle builder added to it. So you can only imagine where we're going with this biochemical parade of things that we have that's from an opportunity standpoint. But dude, we're just in an incredible place right now in the world. And so I love that drug and I think better things are coming.
Yeah, I sometimes I think about, like, what would the world be if it wasn't for podcasts? And I don't mean that to be so trite. I mean, so you think about how many people, like you what you're sharing is information that even a decade ago, we would have 0 access to. 0.
Zero.
0 access to this information. And
Yep.
not that anyone has to believe you, but I guarantee that someone's mind is starting to go, "Hmm, man, I have had brain fog. I have struggled to build muscle mass. I have struggled with energy. I do have that little pouch that I can't get rid of," right? Like, and I just it's why I do this show. It's why my show is so diverse and the guests that I have, all really focused around performance and pushing forward in our lives. But
Sure.
it's because this is the kind of shit that we can't get access to. So I wanna you mentioned alcohol and marijuana, and
Yeah.
I have met, especially since weed became legal and I live in New York State, and now,
Sure.
it seems like everybody's taking a gummy or smoking a little joint or whatever, right? Drinking a drink. And then mixing that with alcohol, and now it used to be like, "Oh, I have some fun on the weekends," and now it's like, "This is what I need to wind down at the end of the night." So I'm interested in we've talked so much about things that create positive change in our lives. I'm very interested in the reality around alcohol and marijuana and the impact on what we've just discussed so far.
Dude, you're amazing in your questions, dude. You're really good at this. I appreciate these questions. I don't get a chance to talk to really smart people who really ask great questions. I do a lot of podcasts, but you're awesome at this.
I appreciate that.
Um, and I'm very unfiltered, as you can tell. All of that stuff is absolutely poison. People are now living in a world where they have so much anxiety, again, due to the attack, right? They're everywhere they go, they feel like shit, they're depressed, they're not hormonally optimized, they have low energy. So it's like they come home from work and they're already half dead. And so it's like, what am I going to do to make my life not feel? So it's like, I'm taking these gummies, I'm hitting this vape, I'm smoking this weed, I'm drinking the wine because my life fucking sucks. Like, I literally am disconnected. I have no spiritual awareness. I hate my job. I'm not happy in my marriage. My kids don't love me. I don't give them enough time, blah, blah, blah. I mean, come up with whatever. And so people literally make this sad, unconscious, it's not conscious, it's an unconscious choice to literally numb themselves from reality. And bro, I've been saying this forever. I don't care if you do a little bit of recreational weed, take some MDMA with your wife to reconnect and go out or something on a weekend and just, have loving, intimacy or something like that. But like every single day, adding in weed or smoking vape or, eating gummies or whatever it is. I mean, people are just lost. Like they truly don't have connection to what is important. And obviously, if we want to go down the spiritual path real quick, like all of us are souls having physical experiences, incarnating in these physical bodies to evolve and to grow. And evolving and growing is not disconnecting. It's like I always tell people, like, the pain is what sharpens us. The contrast of quote unquote things that we label negative is what allows our soul or our spirit to grow and evolve. It's not avoiding the pain, right? And getting high or disconnecting from 6 glasses of red wine. And women are doing this nowadays. I mean, most people, bro, are just in suffering. They're in pain. They're not hormonally optimized. They feel like shit at all times. And so the only way out at night is to do all these things. And, I've been saying this for a long time. When I saw this coming with this legalization of weed and legalization of like THC and vapes and all these things, it was just like a clear indication that whoever controls this realm is just making people dumber.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about AI, but all of these people that are embracing AI to think for them are becoming dumber.
Yeah.
Like, I can show you statistics. I mean, I work with a lot of some of the top copywriters in the world, and these people are having moral dilemmas now because they're being expected to turn around copy, which used to take them weeks, in days, if not hours, because all these people are using AI to replace human thought and human discernment and human critical thinking. And bro, AI does not replace that. We are creating a world of retarded people who are medicated and disconnected. And it's just sad because it's not the way. I mean, I could get on and pontificate this.
Yeah. There's
Till I'm
so
blue in the
many.
face, but
I'll be honest with you. You're in the right spot because I have so many thoughts on this particular topic. Enormous. I'm a Christian, enormous believer in God. Was raised Catholic. Don't love Catholicism, although I still go occasionally. But I have a very distinct, real, and consistent relationship with God. And it's one of the reasons that I've always struggled, and this is tangential, but I'll make it brief because I have two more compounds that I want to ask you about and
of
get your
course,
take on.
dude, you can
Um,
as long as you want, man.
yeah. I've always struggled with meditation because I do believe meditation works, right? But I feel like people replace a relationship with God with meditation because it feels easier and cleaner because it's and they, they're wow, there's some guy in the clouds, which is the most trite way of dismissing or having a relationship with God. But the reason I've always struggled with meditation is you're clearing your mind and you're entering this space, but then you're not filling it. And if you are filling it, you're filling it with you and in a very selfish manner. And I've found and try to practice the idea that when you meditate, if you can then fill that space, if you meditate, which is really just prayer, you can fill that space with God, and all of a sudden you feel this sense of connection, even if you're alone. And
Right.
and that really what I think everything this sense of unhappy, of anxiety, of stress that you just described is at its core, it's loneliness. It's
Yes.
it's it's this empty hole. It's why you have educated humans arguing that men can be women. Like, when you see that, you're like, where could that thought come from, right? Like, and nothing against the trans community, nothing against, I
Right.
have no problem with that.
Right.
I like my belief as an American is you get to do your shit, I get to do my shit, and as
Yep.
long as you don't put your shit on me and I don't put it on you, we're all good, right?
Right.
Okay.
But there are only two sexes, Ryan.
Yes, but there's only 2 sexes. I don't understand how this is even a fucking discussion. I just don't get it. Like, dude, you want to so one of my best friends growing up, his brother we called them cross dressers back in the day,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he was the number one cross dressing dancer in New York City.
That's
He was
all.
a fucking celebrity.
Yeah.
So he would come up to Albany, where I live, which is 2.5 hours north of the city,
Yep.
and he would do these shows, and
Yep.
we would go,
Yeah.
and they were fucking incredible, and
Right.
no one messed with us, and it was
Right.
fun, and everyone's
Right.
laughing. There's
Yeah.
gay dudes and dudes dressed like chicks, and it was
Right.
all good.
Right.
But they weren't none of them thought they were women.
Right. Exactly.
It was just like, I don't understand where we're at, but that mental illness is a different thing to discuss. Um, I wanna come back to, two specific compounds. You can take them whichever order and spend as much time as you want, but
For sure.
I'm very interested in nicotine and particularly the pouch delivery system, right? And, psilocybin. I'm interested in those 2 compounds and where they fall, valuable, not valuable, use cases, etc.
So I used psilocybin yesterday. So you
Yep.
know that there's value in psilocybin. I don't use psilocybin regularly. I use it for ceremonial, sacred ceremonial type things. Like, again, I was here in a really awesome, it ended yesterday, but I was here in a 5-day retreat with a bunch of different people from all over the world. And at the end, we did a sacred ceremony of 5-MeO DMT, for people that wanted to partake. It was not forced. And then chocolate mushrooms, and we went into the cenotes. So we were literally connected to the jungle. And I mean,
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
powerful and so spiritual. And I mean, talk about meeting God. But um, so I love both of these products. And I have spoken. Did you actually hear my stuff about nicotine? Is that what?
No, I didn't. No, I'll be honest with you. I went
So
very
this
deep.
is God connect
Yeah, yeah.
you and me in this conversation because I'm a huge nicotine proponent. I've written deeply about nicotine. So when I say this, a lot of people get really upset because they don't really understand what's going on because they've been brainwashed. But the fear of nicotine and the addictive nature of nicotine is actually all fabricated. And let me explain what I mean by that. Nicotine has been used in shamanic circles for hundreds of thousands of years. In fact, in the Amazon rainforest in Peru, various other parts of Latin America, the Ayahuascos, which are the people that provide uh, ayahuasca in ceremony to the indigenous, to the cultures, the groups and stuff like that, and now the ones that even train like American people to become shamans, have been using it for thousands of years. In America, this addictive nature of nicotine became known and it is real because the cigarette companies, the alcohol and tobacco lobby put all these chemical messengers and highly addictive substances inside cigarettes, tobacco, pouches and wads and all of that stuff in the last 40 years. And it's that is what people are addicted to. It's not actually nicotine itself, because nicotine as a drug, a biologically classified drug, the alpha-loid nicotogenic receptors in our body actually do amazing things.
Mm.
And the reason the ayahuascos take it is because it's a very powerful nootropic.
Have you ever had,
Correct.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Have you
Yeah.
ever had nicotine mixed with Mambe?
Yes, I have. Yes. Yes.
That's one of my, so I'm hyperactive bipolar.
Okay.
And I found that, I found that mixing Mambe with nicotine
Yeah.
is like,
Incredible.
talk about like dialed in focus without any of the caffeine.
Yeah, no jittery, no,
Nothing. I mean,
no
just like,
adrenergic stimulation.
yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just,
No, you're good. It's good. I actually have a supplement that we just launched like 2 weeks ago that I'll have to send you. It's called BioMind, and it's the strongest, by far, the strongest like over the counter oral nootropic on planet Earth. And it has dihexa, which is obviously a peptide. It has J47, which is something like what you just talked about. And then it also has new pept in it. And it's just, I mean, for someone like you, who's like you said, based on your clinical diagnosis, this thing will be amazing for you. But anyway, but getting back to nicotine, like it's been vilified, abhorred. All these people think that they have addictions to nicotine when it's the chemicals, it's the chemical messengers. Again, it's the denatured versions of it. So as long as you get pure form of nicotine and you don't take, again, difference between a pill and a poison is the dosage, massive amounts, you're not going to notice any kind of like, oh my God, I got to do it 12 times a day. Now, again, there are people out there that are addicted to these substances, and it's because they started with cigarettes or chew or pouches, which again have the same chemical additives into it. And they were at massive high dosages of that, and they never weaned themselves off of it. But if you just use it like you do it, again, recreationally to stimulate from a nootropic standpoint, to improve mood, improve focus, they're amazing. Now, psilocybin, there's a big issue with psilocybin abuse. There's way too many people that microdose every day, bro. There's all these companies out there that are giving gummies, lozenges, pills, all this shit. I've seen it all. Half of them want me to promote for them. And I'm laughing all the time because, like, if you've ever met somebody who's microdosing every day, you start realizing that they're not all there. You know what I mean? Like they have loops and lapses in their prefrontal cortex because they've been abusing psilocybin. And look, here's what I'll say. Any of these drugs, regardless of whether it's psilocybin, MDMA, the toad, ayahuasca, ibogaine, I mean, you name it, entheogens, and then obviously synthesized big pharma drugs like Adderall, uh, crystal meth, phentermine, any of these things, if you take it in too high of a dosage for too long of a time, you're going to have problems. What goes up must come down. You cannot hack, you cannot beat different receptors in your brain by doing this drug and then doing this drug. And and I see all these people in the biohacking industry saying, oh, dude, I only need 4 hours a day of sleep because I can do this. And then I can take a half of modafinil or whatever. I mean, again, every single one of those drugs that are classified as nootropics, entheogens, whatever, all work and stimulate the same receptors in the brain. Okay. And if you overstimulate them, you oversaturate them, you're going to have problems. So to me, it's always moderation. I think a psilocybin, again, with a loved one, in an initiatory thing where you're with a bunch of men and it's a camaraderie thing, you're in a jungle, you're connected, everybody's energy field is connected. I think those things are very sacred, very powerful. There's a lot of benefit to those things. But again, you can't do them very often. I think nicotine, my wife chews 1 milligram nicotine gum, whenever she needs like a pickup, in the afternoon sometimes. Again, if you keep your dosages light and you don't become physically or physiologically like adapted to where like I have to have it 3 times a day, there's no harm in those things. But psilocybin, I see, we should probably expand because I see a lot of people now also becoming addicted to ketamine.
Mm.
Ketamine in this like, super micro dosages, bros. I mean, I see all these people promoting this. And yes, ketamine is therapeutic and healing, just like MDMA is for people that have PTSD or post traumatic, stress disorder, or actually brain injury from concussive blasts, a lot of military law enforcement. But again, not all the time. And I see so many people, and this is big in the biohacking space, bro. You're going to probably have people on your podcast that are going to come on that you're going to interview, and you're going to be like, what the fuck did I do? This person, something's wrong with them.
Yeah.
They're addicted to ketamine. There are a lot of people that are in our space now that are taking too much psilocybin and too much ketamine, and they literally have delays. There's literally shit going on. So, like, again, I'm not judging you or condemning you if you listen to this or you're like, oh, yeah, so and so's like that. It's just get off, get help. There are things that can get you off these things. But again, you just got to use these things in moderation. You cannot let them control your life. And too many people wake up every day and take their psilocybin or their ketamine because they're like, I got to get through the day and this is how I do it. And it's no different than the people vaping, taking Ambiens, taking painkillers or whatever it is. I mean, again, it's just an escape, dude. They're disconnecting and escaping.
Yeah, I could talk to you all day, man. This stuff fascinates me. I actually, I did do deep dives into your YouTube channel. I didn't get into the nicotine stuff, because I love the way you talk about it. I mean, I think it's very real, it's very actionable, and I think, you're really dialed into to certainly the way I think people who wanna take ownership of their health
Yes,
need to think about these things. So I appreciate the hell out of you. I wanna let everyone know that, I'm gonna get some links to some of the stuff that Jay talked about and make sure they're in the descriptions. Also, I wanna make sure we get them over to you,
for sure.
so they can check them out. Where's the best place? Someone who's listening who's like, "I gotta get into this guy's world." What's the best way to do that?
So, great thing. And by the way, I'm happy to give you a affiliate link with BioLongevity Labs too, so you can get any supplements that people can buy and stuff from you, and we'll get that separated after the show. But the number one place people can find me is my website. It's J Campbell, Jay, and then Campbell like the soup spelled out.com. It's probably now in the top 3 websites in the world for peptides, hormones, fitness, fat loss, all these crazy things that we talked about here today. Last month, we had 65,000 unique users, which is a record. And then my new company, which we just launched in November of last year, is called BioLongevity Labs. And if you use the coupon code JAYC, you can save 15% off. You can edit this if you want to have a code for yourself, but Ryan's code, whatever it'll be, will be 15% off too. We are the number one product seller right now in the world of small molecules, like all the most advanced bleeding edge products for fat loss, muscle gain, cognition improvement, skin quality improvement, hair regrowth, you name it, we have it, even gut and disease, fixing and stuff like that. We have a lot of different new, very bleeding edge products. So again, that's biolongevitylabs.com. And then if you want to connect with me on social media, my handle is for everything: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X is where you'll find me most, is J Campbell and then the number 333.
Got it. Dude, appreciate you. Keep doing this work. Guys, highly recommend you jump over to jcampbell.com, check it out. And I will make sure I have all the links to the things that we discussed in the show notes. So just scroll down, whether you're on YouTube or whatever you listen to. Jay, appreciate it.
Ryan, thank you, brother. That was amazing.